When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin instantly at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
The children are going to school for free. Roads have been constructed. Ebyobulimi bitutumuse obutale webuli. Abakyala tebakyazaalira mu mbeera mbi ng'eyedda.
We have electricity. Businesses are being supported. Uganda Airlines ekomyewo. I'm proud to be Ugandan.
We celebrate you.
Oh, we celebrate you.
Taxpayers of Uganda. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
Uganda together. Mukoze omulimu. Mwebale kusasula. Tusiime mwebale nnyo.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Meet Nantume. She is a business owner that has just received a tax assessment from URA for not filing her tax return. She goes to her neighbor Nalongo to vent.
Nalongo, I'm frustrated. Can you imagine URA has issued me with a tax assessment simply because I did not file my tax return?
Oh no! To avoid such assessments, I file my tax return by the due date.
Due date? You mean there are deadlines for filing return?
Yes, they are there, and failure to file your tax return by the due date leads to URA issuing you a tax assessment.
But the amount of tax assessed does not even reflect my business performance. Why didn't URA first ask my business performance before assessing me?
You see, Nantome, URA gives you the opportunity to assess yourself by filing a return. If you fail to file your return by the due date, that is when URA comes in to issue you with a tax assessment.
Tell me more.
For income tax and rental income tax, both a provisional and a final tax return must be filed. For a provisional tax return, the due date is by the end of the 6th month of the taxpayer's year of income for a non-individual, and by the end of the 3rd month of the taxpayer's year of income for an individual. For a final tax return, the due date is by the end of the 6th month after the taxpayer's year of income for both individuals and non-individuals. For VAT, excise duty, withholding tax, and pay-as-you-earn returns, the due date is by the 15th day after the end of the tax period to which the return relates. For a lotteries and gaming return, the due date is every Wednesday of the following week and by the 15th day after each tax period. This information is also available on the URA portal at www.ura.go.ug under A to Z topics and on URA social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Better to file your tax return on time.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin instantly at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever before with a new interface that is brief, simple, and cuts out all the excess fields from previous applications. All you need is your national ID or driver's license or passports and internet access, and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues, as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever you are. Remember, it's free. Experience our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together. Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa Business Solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu. Tunamaliriza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with Efris. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business. And you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Our humble beginnings.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever before with a new interface that is brief, simple, and cuts out all the excess fields from previous applications. All you need is your national ID or driver's license or passports and internet access, and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues, as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever you are. Remember, it's free. Experience our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who are tuned into today's episode of the Live Tax Lounge. We are coming to you live from the 19th floor of the URA Tower. Of course, this is URA TV, and we are having one of our flagship programs where we get to interact directly with you, the taxpayer. So at this very moment, I would like to salute each and everyone who is tuning in via our various streaming platforms. If you're coming in via Twitter, big up on yourself. If you're coming through via Zoom, the chat room is already open, because this is the Live Tax Lounge where we get to take your questions live on pertinent tax issues. And this afternoon, we are going to be tackling the issue of tax dispute resolution. Not land dispute, not family dispute, but tax dispute resolution. And of course, with me on set is a pair of dynamic URA litigators, for whom I won't say much because they are here in flesh and they're able to have their greetings, and they also tell you briefly about exactly what it is that they do here at URA. Then we shall dig deep into the discussions of the day. I'll start with the gentleman who is very near to me.
Good evening, viewers, our dear taxpayers. We are very glad to be here to be able to interface with you and interact and take you through all these tax dispute issues. My name is Bakashava Donald, and I am a litigation officer for the Uganda Revenue Authority. And this is what I do on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. Over to you.
Good afternoon, viewers. My name is Sam Karit. I'm an officer litigation with Uganda Revenue Authority. It's exciting to have you, our viewers. I look forward to quite an engaging interaction with you, because this is what we do on a daily basis. We'll be able to give you feedback on how to resolve some of these issues when it comes to resolution of tax disputes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. So it is and Sam in the lounge this afternoon, and of course we are going to be tackling the big matter, I can't really call it small matter, of tax dispute resolution. But for background sake, I guess you can let me first give people a bit of a background. Under normal circumstances, in a country that is operating a modern tax system like the one that we do have in Uganda, tax disputes shouldn't even be part of the discussion, because there is the opportunity that is granted to the taxpayer by tax law in Uganda today, because the Income Tax Act provides that the very first opportunity to determine how much to pay falls squarely in the hands of the taxpayer, by way of, first of all, making that money. After making the money, you establish which part of that money is chargeable and which part is not. So when you arrive to the chargeable income, you go ahead and you do the computations to establish exactly how much you should be paying by way of tax. Then you go ahead and you file exactly that, and you pay exactly what you have filed. That is what happens. Yes. But quite often, for very many reasons, a business person might find himself in a situation where he or she has not been able to fulfill that tax obligation, the obligation to file and pay. And URA, of course, is prompted to take some action there. And that then means that the tax body issues what we call a tax assessment. The word default is often added in there. And after the default tax assessment, then we get into a conversation, for lack of a better word, where the taxman is having a conversation with the taxpayer, but the conversation is prompted by the taxman because the taxpayer was not able to do exactly what was expected of them. And such conversations can oftentimes be uncomfortable. And I guess that then is what forms the gist of the discussion that we're having today. But if I can invite Sam, what are some of the common causes of what we would call a tax dispute, if for the interest of the viewing public?
Thank you, Solomon, very much for that question. I think to get us started on this issue, maybe I will define what a dispute is in simpler terms. A dispute, in simpler terms, is a disagreement. In this case, we're talking about tax disputes. Mainly, these are a disagreement to the tax assessment that has been issued to a taxpayer. You find that many times some taxpayers are not filing their returns, and the taxman will issue what we call a default assessment.
Yes.
So they issue this default assessment, which sometimes the taxpayer does not agree to. When you don't agree to any assessment that the taxman has issued, you have forums within which to challenge that assessment. The law provides for objection to a tax assessment. It's provided for under the Tax Procedures Code, where you can object. In this case, if it is a domestic taxes issue, you lodge an online objection. Now, this objection must be lodged within 45 days from the date of the assessment, yeah? And then on the commissioner, or URA in this case, is supposed to give you an objection decision within 90 days, yeah? So during the objection process, a taxpayer is tasked to always provide evidence in support of the objection. And after the 90 days period lapses, the taxman issues an objection decision, sometimes allowing or disallowing or partial allowing. If the taxpayer is still dissatisfied, then the next fora, as per the laws, is the Tax Appeals Tribunal, which is created under our Constitution, Article 152, Sub-Article 3 of the 1995 Constitution, creates the Tax Appeals Tribunals. We also have the Tax Appeals Tribunals Act. This was created to enable quick resolution of tax disputes. So you can lodge your dispute with the Tax Appeals Tribunal, which will hear, but again, while you lodge this application at the Tax Appeals Tribunal, there are issues like timelines. You're supposed to, for example, make sure that this application you're filing at the Tax Appeals Tribunal is within the statutory timelines. In this case, if it's a domestic tax issue, you're supposed to file your application at the Tax Appeals Tribunal within 30 days from the date when the objection decision was communicated to you. For customs, it's different. Under the East African Community Customs Management Act, which provides for resolution of disputes under the customs area, you have about 45 days within which to lodge your application at the Tax Appeals Tribunal, which will then review the decision that the commissioner would have taken. So if you do not observe the timelines, chances are high that you'll be caught up with time and the URA lawyers will raise an issue of time bar, and your application risks being thrown out on that ground. Important to note also is the requirement of payment of 30% at the point of instituting your application at Tax Appeals Tribunal. Section 15 of the Tax Appeals Tribunal Act provides that anyone, any taxpayer who files an application at the Tax Appeals Tribunal shall, pending the disposal of the application, file and pay 30% of the tax in dispute or the amount not in dispute, whichever is higher. So these are some of the things that you must ensure if you are to successfully bring forward your dispute.
Thank you so much, Sam, for giving us that context. At this very juncture, I would like to invite Donald to chip in, and he gives us a further deeper dive into that journey.
Okay. Thank you so much, viewers, and thank you, Sam, for that elaborate background of the legal dispute part. As you're aware, like you asked earlier, a taxpayer is under a duty to pay tax. And this duty is in Article 17 of the Constitution. So, like you said, in modern countries, the tax administrator, like URA of those countries, should not come running after you. And though here it's mostly that case, because maybe we need more sensitization like this, what we are doing here. Because ordinarily you're supposed to file a self-assessment and pay through after filing those returns. And once you've paid that, the tax administrator will not run after you. So what happens, what brings up a dispute is if you have an act or omission in your returns and in your tax affairs that the tax administrator will not find just or lawful. So that is when now they will come and prompt you to either pay more tax or come up and explain why you're doing this, you're handling your tax affairs in this way. And that is where the dispute comes in, that if they issue a default assessment or an additional assessment. So here you have grounds and forums for objecting, and that is when now we'll come to the dispute resolution. I think I want to start the dispute resolution mechanism from right at inception. Please, when you're dealing with the tax administrator, he will hear you, because once you issue, you lodge your objection, you have a right that you have to be heard and fairly. And this is well established under the Constitution, under Article 28. In every judicial body, tribunal, or court, there has to be a fair hearing. You need to be represented. You have to represent your case, give your case, and have an impartial person looking at you. And if you look at before the establishment of the Constitution and maybe the TAT Act, Tax Appeals Tribunal Act and URA Act, people would only end this with the tax administrator, but there was a bit of unfairness because you cannot be a judge in your own case, like the Latin maxim of nemo judex in cosa sua. You have to have some third party. That's why the laws are very strict, and the Constitution went ahead in Article 152 to establish an impartial tribunal, and like all the other judiciary bodies and judicature, they are independent. So once the third party comes in to look at your dispute, then it will be deemed more fair, because justice should not only be done, but should be seen to be done. That's why we have a tax appeals tribunal that is impartial. So going back to the internal mechanisms, they work because, I mean, if everyone was to go to the tax appeals tribunal first, it will cause so much backlog and
there will be an overload of cases.
Yeah, so you first try, like in all, like we're going to see further, in tax dispute resolution, there are other mechanisms, mediation, litigation, arbitration, and these other ones. So that's why you have to start with the internal mechanisms. You see to the objection officers, they hear out your grievances, you explain to them, and they come up with a decision, which can be agreeing with you, they'll allow your objection, disagreeing and upholding the assessment, they will have disagreed with you, or there's a partial, there's a win-win, or yeah. So after that, like some said, you go now to the structured parts of the tribunals and appellate processes. In case you're not satisfied with the tribunal, you can go to appellate courts, maybe high court, court of appeal, and finally Supreme Court. Yeah, so Solomon, that is just before we delve into now how these tribunals work. That is the basis of how a tax dispute builds up.
100%. Donald, as you were submitting, something tickled my mind a bit, and I felt inclined to ask this question for the benefit of the taxpayer who's seated over the other side.
Yes.
Among the internal mechanisms, when now the taxman and the taxpayer have opted to, have a discussion.
Yes.
Taxpayer has probably visited one of the offices and he wants to, have a dialogue to establish if they can come to an agreeable position. What are some of the elements that usually make it difficult for the two parties to arrive to an agreeable position?
Well, thank you for that question. Like we're saying, this is a dispute. A dispute arises where people do not agree.
Yes.
And if you don't agree in the beginning, you've been issued an assessment of 10 million, and you think it should be 2 million. You will come, of course, not very happy to the taxman to again look into your affairs and hear you out. So there will be conflicts because now you think these are the same people. Because a taxpayer out there knows URA. There's only one URA. There is no that because Solomon issued the assessment, me, Donald, the objection officer, I'm different. So they look at us as all the same. It's the same headed paper, it's the same assessment, has URA. So they have that fear. And sometimes that's why they do not agree with the objection decisions, and even before issuing an assessment, maybe when they have interfaced with the assessor, they do not agree sometimes, and now they're thinking, I'm going back to the same people. So there will be that friction, and even the tax, in dispute resolution from the taxman's view, he will think that once they have assessed you, there is already a wrong. They come with a perception because we are here to collect tax. That's when they employ us at Uganda Revenue Authority, and our mandate under the URA Act is to assess, collect, and enforce tax laws. So that is our perception. We come with this perception, and they come with their perception. We don't want to pay more, we want you to pay more, or what both of us see is just, but because of the other side of the coin, you're all haggling. So that is why it may be uneasy to settle that dispute at that point sometimes. Yes.
Thank you so much. Sam, if you might chip in on that, because I'm thinking that if, as a taxpayer, if I can come with something compelling, you should be able to look into it and actually come to my vantage point, if I may.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Maybe just to build on to what my colleague has been trying to submit on.
Yes.
You said some of these engagements fail between
Yes.
the taxman and the taxpayer.
Yes.
The reason is, some of the reasons are that sometimes when a taxpayer objects, they're required to produce evidence in form of documents to support the grounds of the objection. You find that the documents they submit sometimes are insufficient to support their objection. So in that case, the taxman will disallow the objection. Yes, so those are the instances where this fails, where there are insufficient documents. And then also the other thing is sometimes tax needs professional advice. You find a taxpayer does not have somebody who is competent to advise them on tax matters. It's very important, our viewers, that you invest in this. If you can't read the literature that URA has put out there, you may need to hire a professional who will appreciate these issues. Sometimes the taxpayer says no because they are not appreciating a given point. Yeah, I think that's mainly what creates the point of departure.
Thank you so much. Now, we've been quite clear on the domestic taxes side of the business. Do we have scenarios where even the international, or should I call it, customs side of trade facilitation, do we also get scenarios where the taxman and the taxpayer are in disagreement about the assessed tax?
True. There are a number of instances in customs where the taxpayer and the taxman disagree on a number of issues. I could give you an example.
Please.
They could disagree on a classification of a particular item. We have the harmonized system coding that helps us in the classification of goods. Sometimes the taxpayer will be saying, this is how it should be classified, and the taxman is saying, this is how it should be classified. So sometimes those are scenarios that result into disputes that are coming from customs. And again, customs has a customs audit unit that, that does audits on some taxpayers. When they do this audit, sometimes they find that a given taxpayer was under-declaring, yes? Under-declaring or undervaluing their goods at the point of importation with a view of maybe reducing the tax they're supposed to pay. So that results into disputes. So in that case, the taxman will issue an additional assessment in the form of top-up taxes to be paid on the goods that have already been cleared. So those are some of the instances that lead to the disputes in customs.
Thank you so much, Sam. I want to field this particular question to Donald. Let's assume I'm a taxpayer. And I've come to URA, I'm up in arms, I'm not comfortable with the tax that has been assessed. I've tried to utilize the internal mechanisms which you've briefly taken us through. The internal mechanisms have not worked. I want to go as high as I can using the Ugandan legal systems. What are my options and how high can I go?
Well, thank you so much. For starters, don't assume you're a taxpayer. So you might also be aggrieved at one point. So once you are aggrieved, and that means our internal mechanisms have been exhausted, we have upheld and disallowed the objection. Some give us the timelines to go to the tax appeals tribunal. Why do I say tax appeals tribunal? Because some people know you have to go to court. But for tax matters, tax disputes, this has been settled in the highest courts of this law, of this country. Like in the case of Rabo, it was settled at the Supreme Court. So it's now clear that you have to start, for any dispute arising from our taxation decisions, which is the URA, you have to go to the tax appeals tribunal.
Okay.
And in there, what you're basically doing is you're seeking a further hearing. And now you file your application stating your grounds of dispute and contention. So you state that I was assessed this tax, and even after objecting, they did not agree with my position. Maybe this is a point of law, and someone knows that this tax does not exist for such a transaction. So here you file your application in TAT. TAT is a tax appeals tribunal. So, and this is a panel, because the tribunal it's impartial, which is, there are 3 members of the tribunal, and they will hear out your case. You will have representatives, like they are talking about the tenets of a fair hearing. Yes. They have to have a representative. Yeah, you're given, it's a public hearing. Everyone can go and see that you're against the Uganda Revenue Authority. And in there you will submit, give your reasons why. If they said you imported goods that are not classified in this way, and you classified in this way, can you bring an expert on your own? You say you have an expert in batteries. You say this is I don't know what type of battery, this is another battery. So you can bring and they testify, even the respondent, which is URA, will also bring their classification experts and any other witness.
We have our science guys.
Yeah, we have the science people in TID there. They're doing a very good job. So they will come and tell the tribunal, we are an impartial tribunal, and they will listen to what you have to say. And then they have to be convinced, of course, with the basis of the law, saying, is this thing provided for in the HS code? Is this how you classify it? Is this how